Hi, this actually started life as me demoing a patch bank I've made for the FOURM of 50 bass tones. 50 bass tones sounds like a lot, but once you realise, or once I realised that there was rules I was following and different ways of making the tones, 50 tones came out really, really easily. And the FOURM's a great thing to do it on, but you can do this on most synths. Got 2 oscillators, 2 envelopes, and a filter. I use a little bit of FM with the polymod section, use the LFO and some pulse width modulation. But most synths can do pretty much anything on this. The special bit I've been using on this though was this feedback circuit, and some other hardware and software synths have that, but it's like a little bit of extra magic spice that you get from the FOURM. But I'll just run you through my top 10 tips for making bass tones. First one then is simple is often the most punchy. So starting with a really simple single sawtooth, even that on its own can be a massively effective bass tone. But we'll add some modulation of the filter, we'll drop down the cutoff, add some envelope amount, take this aftertouch off. So if you can see what the envelope's doing there, that's pretty much your standard for most bass tones. And that's a super powerful tone. You'll hear it all over the place. That's using a sawtooth. If we change that over to a pulse or a square, you can hear that little sort of, I don't know, a bit of noise at the end. If we just add a little bit of release, it stops that. It's a classic tone. Make it a bit more acidy, turn up the resonance. And there's your acid tone. And acid tones were sawtooths or pulse. You can really hear the depth that you get on this. It's lovely, isn't it? Next up then, we'll add a second oscillator. Let's just take the envelope off. Take the resonance down and add the second one. Drop it down to the same, slightly detune it. And that's your Reese style bass. The more you detune it, the faster that beating goes. And then, of course, you can use the envelope on that as well. So, try that with a pulse. Now change them by an octave or 2. So I'll knock this one up an octave and don't forget to retune it, otherwise it'll sound weird. And that gives you a little bit of punch when you got that extra octave in there. A little bit more transient compared to this. Maybe 2 octaves and drop that down a bit. So you get the high pitch in there that pulls it out in a mix, but it's not overly bright. Take it off. Then change that to a saw maybe. And again, these are nice for sequenced bass. Just add a bit more. Make it snappier for a sequence. Then take the intervals further, so they're not just octaves, but we can put them as, let's bring it back down to the same, and then just change it to maybe a fifth. Starts to add loads more harmonics to it. This one's playing a fifth, which is 7 semitones. So oscillator B is playing a G. And if we get it to play an E, so that gives us a major. change that a couple of octaves. Let's put them both on a sawtooth. One on a pulse, one on a sawtooth. Tons of stuff you can do there, changing the octaves, changing the oscillator shapes. Let's put them all on. Put up another octave maybe, see what happens there. Still working. Beautiful, let's try minor. So minor is a semitone lower on the B, so you're playing that and that. Darker, dirtier. Get it tuned a bit better. I'm pulling out hundreds of different tones here. Every time I tweak something, you could save it as a different preset. You could probably get 50 tones out of just those few tips. Next up, we're going to add some modulation. So let's drop down the cutoff. Take that off for now. And we'll add some modulation to the filter. So on this, the way we do that is to use the LFO. So we use the LFO and we put it onto the frequency of the cutoff, which is this one here. Slow that down. In fact, sync that to your DAW. So on this, I'm syncing it to a step. This is at 120 BPM. This has been set at maybe a bit faster, maybe. So 8s, this is. Let's modulate one of the oscillators instead. So we'll take the cutoff off. We'll put it on the frequency of A. All synths do this in a slightly different way, but I'm basically using the LFO to modulate this. Let's knock that down a bit. If we put them both at the same pitch even, so let's put them both down there. And again, just play around. Try to cut off as well. And that just brings some nice modulation for those dirty low tones. Just slightly detune that one again for that Reese style thing, and then maybe add some envelope modulation to the filter. Again, play around. Let's try that with pulses instead. Prefer that without the oscillator modulation. Yeah, nice. But as we're on a pulse and we're using LFOs, let's try some PWM. So we're going to modulate the pulse width of A with the LFO. Just listen to A on its own here. Let's just take the sync off there and get the tone up. The typical PWM tone. And again, add some envelope if you like. And again, do something with the octaves maybe. Let's add the second pulse. Sawtooth. Maybe put a interval on there. Add some resonance. So again, thousands of things you can do with that. Now let's dirty it up even more. Let's add some audio rate modulation to the pulse width and to the oscillators. So if we put this into audio rates, I'm going to modulate the pulse width of A with oscillator B on this. You can't do this on every synth, but if you can, where to go. Let's just turn it all up so we can hear what's happening. So now we're modulating this. If I take that off for a second, and then bring it in. This pulse width is being modulated by this oscillator, so let's not listen to that. So when we change the oscillator shape, we're getting different tones out of that. And all of a sudden we've gone dirty and gritty. We're only listening to one oscillator there and there's no distortion in this. Let's add a bit of envelope. Just fast as you like that, isn't it? Let's try adding this oscillator in as well. And it's an octave higher as well. Adding stuff at audio rates then tends to give things a much more dirty, gritty feel. If we take that off there, you can hear that roughness in there. Let's try that with a sawtooth on there. And then let's try modulating the frequency of A with B. So we'll take that off for now and we'll put them both on a sawtooth. Let's not listen to B and just listen to A. So modulating A with B. So if we add modulation, you can hear it detunes the oscillator as you add the modulation. It does that on most synths, some it doesn't if they've got through zero modulation, but don't worry about that here. If it does change the pitch, you can always retune. I'm not sure if that's perfectly in tune, but I'm trying to show you that we're getting that raspiness. Trying it with a pulse. Just got that nice little rasp, that bit of dirt. Let's try listening to oscillator B as well. A nice complex sounding tone. And now we come to the feedback section that you get on the FOURM and a few other synths, and this really does dirty things up. I'll go back to a basic patch. So I should have saved loads of those, shouldn't I? But so start with a basic patch. We'll go down a couple of octaves. Have a little bit of resonance. And now I'm going to introduce this feedback. Marvellous, that, isn't it? Right, there's a little bit too much in there. We'll just drop that down a bit. It gives a little thud at the start and extra depth. Take it off. Massive difference. Try it with the pulse. The thud on that. Drop it down a little bit more to see what happens. It's still there. Let's take it off for a second. And if we turn it up, it actually changes the wave shape, but we'll just whack it up as much as we can. Massive. That's just a single oscillator as well. Bring in the second one. That's huge, isn't it? That produces some absolutely killer tones. Next up is adding a little bit of noise. And add some noise into the mix. That's far too much noise. Just a little touch of it. Take that off again. So you can just hear it. Then if we do a bit of this, so envelope amount up, cut off down, and do the same with the envelope, so sustain down, bit of decay, tiny bit of release. It punches through a mix just a little bit better. A little trick I know a lot of people use, but it's also good for just adding a little bit of fairy dust on some things. If we add the second oscillator, let's do a Reese-ish style thing. Let's... We got the noise in there. Let's put the feedback in just because we can. Knock it down a little bit, I don't want too much. Put that on an interval. Maybe add some envelope, just try something snappier with the same sound. Bring the noise up a bit. badass, that, isn't it? Love all this stuff. So my final tip is then just to use the resonance. If you've got a self-oscillating filter, this can just give you these really low, beautiful subs. So we'll take the oscillators out, we'll put the resonance on full, we'll put the key tracking on so it tracks the pitch across the keyboard, and then it's just a matter of tuning it. Should have really had this on single voice for the whole thing, but and just lower that. Just take that attack off so it doesn't get that little click. Oh my God, this whole table is rattling. You'd need headphones or big speakers to hear that, but that's just a beautiful sub that sits underneath everything. Try and bring in something on top of that. I won't hear it because that's too low, but try and tune it. Bring in the second oscillator. Yeah, so you got 3 oscillators playing there. Sort of like organ bass lines. Yeah, so there you go, 10 top tips for bass tones. As I say, I've got a bass pack of 50 for the FOURM, which you can pick up on starskycar.com or via my Patreon, or there'll be a link at the bottom of this description somewhere as well. But yeah, you know, buy them if you like, because they're really nice tones and this does sound excellent. But that's how easy it is to make them yourself. So I hope that was of some use to somebody. If it was, please do subscribe, ring the bell, join me on Patreon, do all those bits and bobs, buy stuff. It all helps to support the channel. Thanks for staying to the very end, and I'll see you next time.